In today's video, I'm going to be transforming a Depression-era child's desk into a swanky bar cart using snakeskin. Faux snakeskin, of course. Hi, I'm Ellen Crawford, owner and artisan of CRAWFORD Studio, and on this channel, I'll be doing amazing furniture upcycles, interior styling, and I'll give you plenty of tips and tricks along the way to help beautify your home affordably and, of course, sustainably, when we can. So for my first YouTube video, let the transformation begin.
The star of today's video is a Depression-era child's desk and an oak wine rack from the 90s. I think I had one just like that. Now what I'm envisioning for this space is something elegant and sophisticated, timeless, strong enough for a man, yet made by a woman. Comment down below if you remember that commercial. Wait, what's happening? But here we are. I started this project before I decided to film for YouTube, so let me tell you how I got to this point. I took the materials listed and the desk over to a good friend of mine who has the skills and the tools to bring my ideas to fruition. Before I got started, I thoroughly cleaned the piece using a 50-50 mix of water and denatured alcohol per manufacturer's instructions. I primed all the parts that were not going to be painted with Bullseye 123 primer in gray. First time I used the gray, and I really liked it. Here I'm using my Worcester 2-inch angle sash brush. I really like this brush with the short handle because it doesn't cramp my hand. After the primer dried, I went over everything with a 220 grit sandpaper. And then I applied the primer on the wine slides with a dense foam roller. I'll be using General Finishes Milk Paint in Lamp Black. General Finish makes beautiful paint. You're going to want to make sure you stir this from the bottom. Look at how rich it is. I flipped the desk over and started painting on the bottom. I used a small artist brush to fill in any areas that the roller couldn't reach. After I finished painting everything black, I decided I kind of missed that rustic wood. So I got out my old Ryobi corner cat and I went to work. It's not as easy to get up anymore. Then I cleaned up the dust with my vacuum and a damp cloth. Although the top of this desk is solid wood, it had many dents and dings. And I've used a technique in the past, removing them with a damp towel. But this time I decided to fill a medicine dropper with water to give it a little extra help to help expand these dents and scratches. Some were quite deep. Wow, look at them all. There's about a dozen of them. So after I got them filled, I let it sit up for about 20 minutes. I came back in with a fairly damp towel. And a very hot iron. Now, if you're working with veneer, I don't recommend doing this. I would just do a 7 to 10 second count, check to see if you've raised your dents or dings, and then go back at it. Because you could easily just lift the veneer off. Listen to that steam. Look at that. I got about 90% gone. Not bad. After letting it dry thoroughly overnight, I applied some wood putty to some of the dents and digs that didn't come out completely and gave it a sand with a 220 grit. Then cleaned up the remaining dust with a vacuum. Off camera, I applied the wood stain. First, I preconditioned, and then I did 3 coats of Varathane Polyurethane. In between coats, I used a 600 grit sandpaper, and I just slightly moved the sandpaper across very gently. And this is just a little extra thing that I like to do. I like to apply paste wax, and it just gives it a really nice smooth finish. I build up several coats, so it takes time. You put it on, you let it dry, you come in, and I buff it out in several ways. Initially I'm using this kind of like this palm buffer polisher. Now I always come in with my nice lint-free cotton t-shirt type rag. And then the final step, I like to use this shoe shine brush. This just gives it extra buffing. And by the time you're done, you've got a mirror-like finish. And let me tell you, it feels so smooth. I love it. All right, let's get stripping this drawer. So up until this video, my favorite stripper for old furniture with varnish, not paint, was Citrus Strip. Now I heard that they changed the recipe, and I recently tried it, and they did. So now I'm looking for a new stripper. But anyway. Make sure you keep your old coffee cans, and you just put a liberal amount on. I kind of use a little scrubbing motion to loosen up the stripper and working it in. And on this one I did end up putting a plastic wrap on it so it didn't dry out. Waited about 15 minutes, and then I was ready to get taking that off. Now I use a plastic scraper. I believe this was pine, so that can tend to be pretty soft. You can use a metal scraper, but you know, that's a little softer. Then I cleaned up any residual with clean strips after wash. Now I'm going to remove the legs with my good old-fashioned coping saw. Now to save some time, I went ahead and stained the 3 legs off camera, but I wanted to show you how nice this General Finishes water-based wood stain in Sedona goes on. You're going to make sure you want to stir it thoroughly from the bottom up. I'm using a chip brush to apply it. After you get it covered to the consistency that you would like, you're just going to remove the excess with a cloth and then reapply. Now I'm just checking the level on these because after that coping saw incident, there was a little uneven, so I sanded it flat, made sure everything was flat, and then repainted. I'm measuring for center using chalk and creating an X. After drilling, so now we're going to go ahead and install the T-nut. First time using a T-nut. And after 22 whacks, that T-nut just didn't stand a chance. Now let's drill for the casters. You know I had to put some casters up on here. But not just any old casters. Only solid brass would do. Aw, yeah. Look at them. No rubber for this bar cart. Absolutely not. Alright, let's get them on. When I saw this fabric, I absolutely had to have it. Look at the texture, the way it catches the light. I didn't even know what I was going to use it for, but I do now. So let's go ahead and get this faux snakeskin adhered to this bar cart. So what you want to do is cut your material whenever you're going to, it's basically decoupage. You want to cut it slightly larger unless you're a really good measurer, which I am not. You want to make it about a 1/2 inch, on each side. Give yourself a little wiggle room. And then I went ahead and painted about a 1/2 inch of the black, just in case it came out a little short. You'd have a nice cohesive look. And then I went ahead and applied the E6000. I do recommend when trying something different, because I've done decoupage before, but this has a felted back, and I wasn't sure how it would adhere to the wood, so I did a test sample. And I actually tried Mod Podge. It didn't work, slid right off, and it also changed the integrity of the fabric. So it no longer felt like leather, and I had to do some research. Contact cement, definitely would work, but you got one shot. That doesn't work for me, because I know I have to make adjustments. So that's how I came up with this, but it works really well. Definitely recommend, though, if you're going to use a lot of it, it's very smelly, wear a mask. I had a mask on. I'm just using the brayer to go ahead and flatten out the glue, help it adhere, and using my fingers to just really get it up to the edges so we have a nice tight fit. And then I brought out the retired rolling pin that I have there. exactly the same process on the other side, gluing both surfaces. After about an hour, I came back to trim it. And I did try to see if the rotary tool was going to work. It worked perfectly when it wasn't on the furniture. So it gave me a little bit of gave me some trouble, but eventually I got it. After using 2 different rotary tools, I got out my handy dandy Fiskars. I couldn't play with that anymore. But it was already scored, so I just went ahead and trimmed it up. Got the job done. Off camera, I repeated the process on all sides, letting them dry overnight. Alright, let's prep for hardware. Unfortunately, this is my second attempt on drilling the holes. Unfortunately, I had it just slightly off, and I ended up ordering this jig from Amazon. Worthwhile investment. Now a sneak peek at the hardware. Yep, more brass. Timeless and elegant. My favorite. Now before I show you everything put together, let me show you a sneak peek of my next upcoming video where I'm going to reinvent this pile of spindles and this shelving. Now, remember where we started. Now let's dress him up.
Oh, my pretty baby, oh, my sweetie baby, I just can't believe I'm yours. Every day I look at you and I think I must have done something good to deserve you. I'm not superstitious, it's just a suspicion, but I feel it in my bones. I feel it ever since the day we met. I just knew I must have done something good to deserve.
That's it for today. Thank you for subscribing and hitting that bell. Thank you for liking. Thank you for sharing. I really appreciate it. And until we meet again, bye for now.
No matter what people want you to believe, don't ever turn back on your dreams. It's all in your hands, a change is needed.